That's my secret, cat. I'm always angry.
Alright. I ran out of patience. On the roost!
Hey everyone, Captain, big fan of Spider-Man.
Avengers! Assemble.
Hello, Peter.
Hello and welcome to the Infinity Saga and Beyond an MCU fan podcast. My name is Jordan Wiegand, and with me today is Casey McGeorge.
How's it going, everybody?
Going well. We are, more than 2/3 of the way through She-Hulk. We got a Deadpool 3 announcement with Hugh Jackman returning as Wolverine, which I did a quick little episode on, unscheduled episode.
I saw that. I saw like Ryan Reynolds was trending, and I saw like a snippet of the video, but I didn't know what it was, and I was like, he's wacky, he does weird stuff, he's Canadian, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
So then they're like, oh, Deadpool 3 announcement. So I was like, okay, let me check it out. And I watched it, and I was like, up until the very end, I was just like, what is this? This is garbage. Then the end got me, and I was like, okay, you hooked me. I'm in. Then the next day got me even more. The second video the next morning got me even more. So, as you know, I'm on vacation for the next 2 weeks. Last time I was on vacation, I did a Marvel Infinity Saga watch of all 22 movies or whatever. I'm not doing that one again. But I just haven't watched the 2 Deadpool movies, so I'm gonna check those out, and then maybe hop back into some of the old X-Men stuff.
Definitely. We're on Disney Plus too. If you don't own it, if you don't own some of those, I think some of them are on Disney Plus. I think most of the X-Men are.
The only one I own on disc is X1 and X2. And then I don't, though I have those on disc. I probably need to complete the collection, upgrade them to better quality instead of just regular DVD. I'm sure they probably look fantastic in either Blu-ray or HD Blu-ray. But
yeah, what I had done. So this is a thing that Vudu, the app I use for digital movies, used to do before Disney bought Fox. So once Disney bought Fox, because Disney doesn't allow Vudu to do this, is a thing called disc to digital. And when Vudu was owned by Walmart, you used to be able to actually even do disc plus digital. So what you would do is for disc to digital, you scan the UPC of it, and then if it's in their catalog, it lets you buy the digital copy for $2 or $5 for HD if you have the DVD. If you have the DVD, you would take a picture of the UPC, and then you'd be able to have the digital copy for $2 for standard def, $5 for HD. If you have the Blu-ray, it's $2 for the HD. So I did that for the X-Men movies when they were still owned by Fox at that time and not Disney. And I was able to, I just paid the $5 each to upgrade all of them to HD. So I still don't have Blu-rays of them, but I do have the HD digital copies of them.
For me, I'm a physical collector.
Me too.
Just because and we're seeing it with some games where at any point companies can just kind of like delist their stuff and you're just out of luck. We're
seeing it with HBO. They just removed so much stuff on HBO Max, but they also just removed some shows that were canceled off of Vudu and off of iTunes, and it took their copies if you bought it. You can't access it anymore. So that's a problem.
What I do like is I do use Movies Anywhere. So
yes,
it's a little, I use that. You get the little digital code in there. So you get a digital copy that you can watch like if you're traveling, or you can like you can download it to your phone or whatever to watch while you're going back and forth. So I still use that, but I still also have the physical copy just because, like I said, you're seeing too many things, games, movies, and television and stuff where, stuff's just getting delisted, and next thing you know, it's gone, and you might have paid for it, and you just don't have it anymore, and that's it's one thing if it's a free show or movie or something like what was it? PT, the playable, the Silent Hill demo that came out a few years back on Sony, like on the PlayStation 3 or PlayStation 4. It was a free demo. I think it was Guillermo del Toro was helping him. No, was it Kojima? I don't know, one or two. But they made like it was another version, another Silent Hill thing. It was a little teaser demo, and it got a lot of great reaction. People loved it. Whatever happened between Sony and whoever made it, they split. They didn't end up making the game, and then it got delisted. And so, like, especially if people upgraded their console, they lost out on it. Like, sometimes they weren't able. Some people were able to get it back because it was tied to their PlayStation account, but some people weren't. So some people just literally I mean, it was free, so you can't really complain. But
that's the thing. So I usually try to own everything I can physically, and then about 2016, 2017 is when I was like starting to get like, let's redeem all these digital codes I have. And then I started building my library on Vudu and Movies Anywhere. So what I use is I have Vudu is my main one because it also has Lionsgate, which I think Movies doesn't have on there. But there's some sort of there's some companies that have everything on Movies Anywhere. But then you can link like your iTunes with all those. You can link like your Google one. So if you bought a movie on anything, you can pretty much access it on any of those apps at this point because they keep feeding information to each other. Okay, so an update here on what ones are on Disney Plus, just because I thought about it. And if you're interested in watching Deadpool or the Fox films before Deadpool 3 comes out, Deadpool 1 and 2 are on Disney Plus. Logan is on Disney Plus. X-Men First Class, X-Men, X2, X-Men The Last Stand, Days of Futures Past, X-Men Apocalypse, and Dark Phoenix. I think that's everything except for the Wolverine films are on Disney Plus. They even have Fantastic Four and Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer and Fan Four Stick, the Fantastic Four reboot. They have everything except for the first two Wolverine movies, it looks like. So it's actually pretty good. Those come and go though, because they're usually still part of deals with whatever Fox had signed on originally. So there's times where you'll see the Fantastic Four movies jump off of there and come back on. But as of recording, if anybody is interested in watching older Marvel films like that, they are on Disney Plus currently. But we're not here to talk Deadpool 3. We're here to talk She-Hulk Attorney at Law, Episode 7, The Retreat. Written by Zeb Wells, directed by Valia, and aired September 29th, 2022. The synopsis from Disney Plus says Jen visits Blonsky's wellness retreat, meets new friends, and gets in touch with her inner She-Hulk. Casey, what was your initial thoughts here on Episode 7? You're on mute, sorry.
Sorry. I really like this. This might be my favorite episode of the season so far. I don't know why. I really love seeing Tim Roth back as Blonsky and just this chill out new age dude who's just leading therapy sessions and has a sign on the back of his wall that says Obama-stay. I don't know why that tickled me. It just did. Seeing She-Hulk Jen in a therapy session with these other random characters and having like a mini breakthrough while she's waiting for a car that was totaled to get fixed. I don't know. It was it helped. It moved the story further, but it really just served no purpose. And sometimes you just need an episode like that. It was just like a self-contained episode about Jen. I mean, you only saw. Why can't I remember this poor character's name? Nikki. You saw Nikki.
Yeah, I was gonna say who you. I was gonna ask who you're talking about.
You see Nikki for all of maybe like 30 seconds during the, if that. I honestly I can't remember if she was in it. She might have been, but I can't remember honestly.
That's a good question. I think it may have just been on the recap. Because it starts off with the dates, right? It starts off with the 3 dates.
Yeah, so or maybe after one of the dates or something. But Nikki wasn't in there that often, right? You get, like I said, you get Blonksy back. You get these weird, random, kooky dudes. One thinks he's a vampire. One's a porcupine. One's a bull. One's a matador that doesn't want to admit he's a matador for whatever reason. Like, okay. I'm pulling for Blonksy to have success with his facility. I will say, I if I'm his probation officer, yeah, She-Hulk's coming up there with me because either I'm going up there with the entire 82nd Airborne, if his inhibitor's giving me issues at saying it's not working, which makes me think he might be the Abomination again. So either the entire 82nd and probably the 3rd Infantry Division as a heavy mechanized unit is coming up there with me, or I'm taking She-Hulk. I'm not going up there by myself. Because as a one-off character, that tells me I'm probably not going to live or last. So
I just went through real quick. She is in one scene. It's in the office while she's talking about how she hasn't heard back from Josh, and she's
she wants
for
to take
Lawyer
her
of the
phone
Year.
from her. Yeah, she wants to take her phone from her.
Yeah. All right, so I was able to confirm that. Okay, I'm not sure if I'll say this is my favorite one, but I really did dig this. I really like. So it is self-contained, I guess, a bit, right? But it still links in very much to the overall story, and we get some good character stuff with Jen, maybe coming to terms with herself even more than what she has recently. I thought there was a few times where she was going to figure out the Josh thing, which is at the end of the episode. But just kind of talking about this real quick, one of the characters, Saracen, right, the vampire, says maybe he just wanted your blood, and that is what he wanted. But it didn't click with her, and I thought it was going to maybe click then.
Two things. One, did you see the look on the dude's face when she said that? He was a little kind of shocked, right? Mm-hmm. We'll get to who, but the dude, he was. I don't know what that look was. Maybe like, hey, let's not mention that. Secondly, they threw me for a loop with Josh because I know we've said we don't trust him, right? We've talked about that before.
Oh, I knew it, especially when he ghosted her. I was like, this is it.
Okay, but they threw me for a loop because, as you know, and some people may not, but Apple has a thing where you cannot use an Apple device if you are a villain in a movie or a TV show. They will not allow bad guys to use their devices. So that has actually helped some fans figure out a movie villain that's being hidden because, you know, when people show their phones or when they show iMessage, right? You see the blue bubble, okay, it's Apple device. But then somebody all of a sudden, you know, because I think even in Knives Out, they talked about Captain America there.
Yeah,
they
Chris
talked
Evans.
about him. He was always, he had an Android device and he was turning the group messages green or whatever, right? So some people were able to figure out that he was a bad guy, and it sticks. Like typically, like 99.99% of the time, that is held. So we've already said we didn't trust the guy, but all of a sudden I saw he was using iMessage with Jen. So that kind of threw me for a loop because I was like, wait a minute, maybe he's actually not a bad guy. Maybe I was wrong about him. So they worked something around it, which we'll get to. But for a minute, it kind of had me thinking like, oh, maybe he really is interested in her. Maybe he's not. And then he ghosted her. But then they kept showing it, and he was using the blue message bubble. So I'm like, he's using an iPhone. So this isn't like he's using iMessage. He's on an iPhone. Like this isn't. I'm not getting this. I don't know.
Maybe that's interesting. Maybe it's because of the did they like not show the logo of the Apple? Maybe that they're able to kind of get around that, or I don't know.
It could be that they didn't physically show his phone, right? They didn't.
Right.
They also only showed that he was using iMessage, but at the end, which we'll skip ahead for a quick second, they showed he has some device, his phone. He puts on top of Jen's phone and copies it. So maybe it's some sort of cloning device or some sort of weird.
Yeah.
I don't know, but like I said, it's one of those things, especially when you know that about Apple and their products. As soon as I saw the blue bubbles, I was like, okay, like I'm lost here. This isn't making any sense to me.
That's interesting. I did not pick up on any of that. But I thought, like this is, I mean, I'm looking at his phone here. He definitely has a iPhone. You just can't tell it's an iPhone. And when
they keep it under shadows a lot, so you
when he sends the Hulk King message, it doesn't show any bubble with it. So I'm guessing you're talking about when she's looking at her phone.
Yeah, when she's texting
that it shows
him.
The blue.
Yeah, when she's texting him, like if you look when she's texting him, and all the stuff it shows, he's got blue bubbles, and it says iMessage, so he's using.
Right. Yeah, so I guess the way around that is not showing him have it and not showing his message, and they're able to get around it while even showing Jen have the blue message. I don't know. That's interesting.
There is a weird. There is, because I've seen it even before She-Hulk. I saw it because obviously for some people that's a big thing, right? And I kind of get it because I switched from Android to an Apple device a few years ago. So I kind of get it. But there is a weird app where you can download it to your phone and connect it to your, and at least as of earlier this week or something, it was working. Connect it to your iMessage, and it'll still filter your iMessages to your device, and it'll, if you send anything back, it sends it to another service and then sends it through iMessage. So I mean, I guess there is ways around it. I don't know, but like I said, it's just I know I pick up on some of the weirdest things, but that's one of those I saw, and I was just like, okay, he's not a bad guy because he's.
Well, it is good insight because it's something that's behind the scenes, right? That can affect how things are portrayed on the screen. So that is interesting.
And Disney, okay, the people who make this show and the Marvel stuff are smart enough to know what fans look at. Like they drop all kind of small things, right? So they understand that if they showed I'm sure they knew if they showed he was using a green bubble, that means he was not using iMessage, he was using an Android device, right? People would pick up like that immediately.
Yeah.
Right? So they're smart enough to understand this, so they got to figure out a way around it, and I get that. But at the same time, if there's one company out there who probably could pay Apple enough money that they would allow them to do it, if that's the case, and I'm not saying it is, I don't know.
They
it would be Disney
partnership.
and Marvel. It would be Disney and Marvel who would be like, hey, how much is it going to cost for this one little throwaway thing in a show that we're having on Disney Plus? Or what they could, those two companies can work something out. Like, some other random thing where some other random movie or TV show, Disney's going to be, Apple's going to be like, yeah, no, we're not budging on that one. But for Disney, they probably could either figure something out, or they might know of these apps or whatever, and then figure, okay, that's a way around it. But they're the one company that'd be like, hey, as soon as we show him with a green bubble, like it'll give everything away because like someone will figure it out. So
Yeah, Disney and Apple have huge partnerships, so I could totally see them being allowed to at some point. Okay, I guess let's kind of get into it a bit. So she gets called for, so she goes on these like 3 dates, with Josh.
I love the montage.
Yeah, it's a good montage.
The montage was pretty cool. I don't know the song. The song's pretty cool, kind of fit with it, but I love the montage, and it's one of those things where you can. It's been a while for you, but when you first start dating somebody and things are going well, and you kind of have these euphoric feelings, and and just seeing their messages come up might put a smile on your face or change your mood or make your day a little bit brighter. And you kind of get that. She's had her fair share of things, and this random guy, Josh, is making her feel happy and giddy and warm and fuzzy inside, and she's going along with it.
Yeah, it's a fun montage. If anybody really likes montages, you better watch Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. That's like, they're the kings of montages. This is a good montage here, and we get her getting ghosted, and you wonder. I wonder how people that were not suspicious of Josh started feeling this. Did they think he was incapacitated or just a sleazeball? Like that's what I wonder.
Okay, so for me, I like the way they did it, where he goes back to her place a couple of times, and she won't let him in. They end the date at the end of the night, and then finally, after the third or fourth date, magic happens. Right? They get intimate. And then she texts him. He's not there the next morning, which was the first dirtbag move, but sometimes it can happen. Maybe he had to work or something, right? I don't think we ever knew what he did for work, but okay, whatever. We'll figure that out. And maybe for a couple hours. So for me, like I said, I kept seeing the blue bubbles, and I was like, maybe he's not a bad guy. All right. But then I was like, why is he not answering back? Did he go? He ghosted her. Did something happen? Did maybe I thought maybe the construction worker crew there might have nabbed him up at first, right? Like leaving her place, or someone might have nabbed him up leaving her place. I was like, I don't know, but I was sitting there and I couldn't figure it out. So I was just like, this doesn't make any sense. Why is he not texting her back? He seemed really into her, and I felt bad for her the longer it went on, because you can tell she's getting frustrated with everything and not getting an answer back. And I was just like, man, this sucks.
Yeah, it was, so, what's funny is I was very suspicious this whole time. The time where I started not getting suspicious is when they flashed back. I thought maybe it would show him leave and get hurt or something. And then
3
when
days earlier?
Yeah, when it shows the 3 days earlier, I was like, okay, well, maybe they'll actually show that something happened to him. But then when he starts buttoning up his shirt and stuff, I'm like, okay, never mind. I know he's doing bad stuff. But I just thought it was funny that I was so sure of it until they were about to confirm it. Then I'm like, no, maybe not. And then they're like, yes, he is. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, same with me. I didn't trust him. Then I wasn't sure. And then I was like, he's ghosting or something's off. And then, 3 days earlier, I was like, oh, okay, he's a douche. All right, so be it.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Casey, I got a question for you.
All right.
If you're going to do this, if you're Josh, right, and you're going to pull this move here, why not continue seeing her just to kind of throw off the suspicion for a bit? I don't understand why in all these movies and stuff, the person immediately steps back and ghosts them when it's like, okay, maybe play along and then create some sort of fake reason to break up or something. That's how I think of things.
I have an answer.
Yeah.
And they show it in a lot of movies because eventually the person comes back and they say that they've caught feelings.
Uh-huh.
So it could be a situation. I mean, okay, I'm a little biased, right? Not gonna lie. I think Tatiana Maslany is a very attractive woman, right? Jen is very attractive. She's got a great job. Seems like she's got a good head on her shoulders and everything, right? Um, we've already talked. I have a thing for She-Hulk. Not gonna lie, can't really hide that anymore. Is what it is. So that you know she's She-Hulk. Okay, cool. He's seen her as She-Hulk, right? Doing
Yeah.
She-Hulk things where she fights against Titania. Right? So for me, that's like total package. So maybe, he was sent to get her blood, do whatever, and then get out because the longer something like that goes, there's a chance he could catch feelings, right? Or maybe he's already starting to catch feelings. And maybe we'll see him in one of these last 2 episodes where he comes back and says that. And then she does the Hulk smash on him or whatever. He would rightfully deserve that. But then, that's one of those, it could throw. Obviously, we don't know who he's working for or what the purpose is. But then it could throw everything into chaos where if he comes back and we see it, like I said, we see it in movies and TV shows a lot where they show, I'm sorry, I really do have feelings for you and let's help fix this, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And he joins the hero side and they help save the day or whatever. So maybe it's a situation like that where he decides I either gotta cut this off because the more I'm around this person, it's feelings are gonna grow. And I could see that realistically happening, They had some good dates and they were intimate together and things seemed like they were going good. Maybe, it's still a douchey thing to do, I'm not saying it's right, but it could just be a situation where he decides, you know what, I gotta cut this off now before I get myself in too deep.
That's a good point. Because I was thinking, not really related, but like the whole Leo DiCaprio stuff going on, right? Where he dumps everyone at 25.
Yeah.
Right?
There was even a joke. There was even a joke about that where it said he didn't want to get on the door panel with Rose because Rose's age in Titanic was 26.
Yeah. But what I was thinking is, if you're DiCaprio, and he might be doing 27-year-old right now, but I'm like, why not just date somebody over 25 and kind of stop the narrative? Like, date a couple girls at 27, 30 years old, stop the narrative a bit, and then you could go younger again if you wanted to. But I was just like, why is he everybody notices this, DiCaprio? Why aren't you changing it up a bit?
You know why? Because it's Leonardo DiCaprio and he doesn't have to.
That's true.
He's one of the most attractive men in the world. He's uber famous, right? He's uber rich. He makes fantastic movies. He's got an Academy Award and who knows how many other awards. He's working with Martin Scorsese and all these auteurs and world famous directors and Quentin Tarantino and things, right?
Yeah.
So, no, he doesn't have to. People have their things against it, and I mean, it's his dating life. Who am I to say? As long as the person he's dating is over the age of 18, she's able to make her own decisions. Is it kind of skeevy? Yeah, a little bit. Because, I mean, I'm 40. I turned 44 in a couple weeks, right? There's no reason I would want to date someone between the ages of 18 and 25. Maybe even 18 and 30. Other than for intimate pleasures. There's no reason for me. So even when I was, this was probably about 10 years ago, maybe. Before I moved to California, when I was in El Paso, and I was stationed at Fort Bliss, there's a college there, University of Texas El Paso. It's a Division I college, so they have all the major sports: football, baseball, basketball, women's volleyball, women's basketball, right? And I used to live on the west side of El Paso, which was right by the campus. So a lot of times I would go to Walmart or grocery stores, and I would see some of the people are athletes, after practice or whatever. And, especially athletes, they're wearing, they're wearing their warm-ups or like cheerleaders coming from a game or whatever. Or like I did some coverage for some games, and like I would look at the cheerleaders and look at some of the athletes, and they might be attractive or whatever, but even in my mid-30s or whatever, like I look at them, you can tell like they're 18, 19 years old, and physically they're just like they're of age, but they haven't really developed into adulthood yet. Yeah, and it's one of those, like, for me, not that it was a turnoff, but it was just like I couldn't see myself dating someone of that age, just because I can't imagine we would have a ton in common, right? I can't imagine we're gonna like the same things. If they're under 21, we can't necessarily go to some of the same places or do some of the same things.
True.
So for me, it was just one of those. It was like a hard no. Now, if you're Leonardo DiCaprio, you don't have to worry about that, because even if they're like 19, you're Leonardo DiCaprio. Like, either you're gonna have a soiree or a shindig at your place or a friend's place,
Right.
or you're gonna know of these places in Hollywood where discretion is kind of key anyway, because they might have a big celebrity clientele and they don't necessarily want random. Like, I couldn't walk into some of these same bars and clubs as, like, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio or someone like that, right? Mm-hmm. So you're not, like, the average person isn't going to be able to get in there anyway. So, yeah, you probably slip them a couple $100 or something, and your 19-year-old date is going to be able to go in with you. Not saying it's right, but they value discretion in a lot of those places, because that's how they keep their money in their business. So, yeah, if you're heading, you don't necessarily have to, so.
That's true. Okay, so she gets called up by the parole officer, and he says, "We don't have enough."
On a Sunday morning at like 7 in the morning or something.
He's like, "We don't have enough of a squad, right, to go up there. So we kind of want you to be my backup here."
Yeah, Blonksky's inhibitor is malfunctioning or something, or it went offline, so they can't track him, and they feel as though he might have turned into Abomination again. They don't have anything to prove it, but once again, like, the thought is he might have abominated.
Yeah. Well, they go up there and they fix the issue. The officer wants her to be as her Hulk form, right? Not her human form as they go in there. So she's like awkwardly in this like porch with almost touching the roof.
Okay, question for you.
Mm-hmm.
You're the probation officer, and that happens. Blonsky's inhibitor is not active. It's not working. Something's wrong. What do you do? Who do you call?
Ghostbusters.
How do you go up there?
How do I go up there? I mean, you probably do call Jen, don't you? I mean, she's his lawyer. You would have to want to make the lawyer know, but then you're also like, hey, can you kind of give me some backup here, because you can turn into She-Hulk? But I mean, I don't know. Like, I guess it depends on what their thought process is. For me, I totally buy Blonsky's rehabilitated, so I think I would be more lenient to go up by myself. But you don't want to put yourself in that problem, in that situation.
If you're the probation officer, you probably wouldn't buy it.
That's true.
If you're the probation officer, you're probably not saying it's right. Every person is different. But if you're the probation officer, you're probably going to be skeptical about anybody who's being put on probation until they've given you a reason to trust them. So,
and they probably see so many people break it all the time. So they're probably a little biased in that regard.
Yeah, so two things. One, the simple fact that they're probably understaffed and overworked. So there's probably a ratio, and we're going to make up some hypothetical numbers here. Maybe it's like one probation officer for every 10 people he's got to keep track of. Because realistically, like, they got to go, they might have to visit their home, their job every so often. They've got to physically check in with them, or parole officer, they got to check in with them. They've got to maintain housing. They've got to maintain a job. There might be drug and alcohol testing they have to do. So there's a lot. But because of the world we live in, it's probably not that. It probably would be more like 1 to 20 or 25. So he's probably facing like a double his clientele list that he's got to deal with, right? 2, how do you feel about being the parole officer for the dude who's the abomination? We talked before about I like any person in the MCU now might be able to make a thing about their constitutional rights being violated because they can't totally get a jury of their peers if they go to trial, because they unless you get other superhuman people, they may not have peers, right? Like how can I as a regular person judge this other dude who's superhuman powered? But that's a whole nother that'd be a constitutional amendment discussion.
Well,
now
what I was going to ask you,
you're the parole officer for this one dude who's the abomination. Like, you can't really if you make him mad or you try and tell him he's violating parole, like, you take the chance of this dude becoming an abomination and ripping you in half.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, right? Is we now have a whole department for superhero lawyers. How are there not at this point? This is where it gets tricky.
Well, that's just a law firm. That's not necessarily a department. Yeah. That's just one particular law firm that decided to capitalize on that.
Right.
That
but
doesn't
you
mean
think
any
that
other part of the justice system is encompassing that.
Right. You'd think at some point the law has to catch up, right? There has to be some sort of equal parole officer to somebody with superpowers, but then you also don't want probably the law enforcement to have superpowers, but maybe then they're calling Avengers for every single one of these, and then they have bigger issues. There's a lot going on with this.
Is that how you get the Great Lakes Avengers and the West Coast Avengers?
Yes, that's exactly.
And the Seattle Avengers and Texas's Avengers and things? Because they got to deal with stuff like that.
Yeah.
But,
so, you know what? Get me Mr. Immortal up there. He can be the parole officer because he can get killed a million times. It's fine.
But it doesn't mean he's going to be able to stop him.
No, but I mean, he you know what?
He's going to distract him for 38 seconds.
Yeah.
Once he gets killed, remember, you said he can be killed for up to 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Like all I got to do is kill you for a couple of minutes. I'm out. That's it. I'm gone. But
that's true.
So, I mean, I don't know. Is that a luck of the draw? Is that a low man on the totem pole, like the newest parole officer? You get stuck with Abomination? Like, how does that happen? How do you get to be the dude stuck with? And honestly, if I'm stuck with Abomination, you're decreasing my client list. I'm not dealing with like 19 or 28 other people and Abomination.
If
I got to deal with Abomination, I'm dealing with just Abomination. That's it.
Yeah, so whatever the cause is, he's the parole officer. He gets Jen up there. They realize it just went off because he said due to an electric fence, but
because of his favorite chicken. Like he was, which I love the fact that and I saw it later when they were walking by and I saw the chickens. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I wonder. And then he said hi, and one of them was his favorite chicken. I was like, nice touch there. All right.
Do you think that's actually why it went off? Or because we meet a mutant here, El Aguila, right? Who is able to produce electrostatic shots with his sword. Like, is that the reason it goes off instead? Like,
I do trust Blonksy, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Because like I said, and they brought up before, like, this dude at any point could have turned into Abomination and busted out of that prison. Mm-hmm. And there's not really much they could have done with him. The dude during Shang-Chi could have rolled out, right? After Wong brought him to wherever in Shang-Chi and fought him.
Yeah.
But he still came back. So I have trust in Blonksy. I like the dude. Plus, Tim Roth is awesome in playing that character. But I'm biased, right? So I don't know. Did you see how fast that parole officer, rolled out?
Yeah. I don't blame him.
He fixed it. It was good, and he was gone.
Yep. Hey, that's good. Did his job. He's gone. And Jen would have been gone.
It's also a Sunday. He's missing football and things,
Jen would have been gone as well, but then Man Bull and El Aguila accidentally destroy her, which forces her to stay there while they wait for the tow truck. So some fun stuff here. Man Bull, his first appearance in Marvel Comics was in Daredevil number 78, which was July 1971. He possesses immense strength, endurance, and speed, as well as resistance to injury. So he's a mutant. He is a mutant as well. And El Aguila, first appearance, Power Man and Iron Fist number 58. That's August 1979. And he, in the comics, he was a mutant. He's lost his mutant abilities, but his mutant power in the comics was to generate electrostatic charges within his own body, which we see him do here, which means he still has his mutant abilities in this. So I kind of like the way they're doing this, sprinkling in the mutants, because it'll make whenever X-Men appear feel like the mutants didn't come out of nowhere. We're starting to see some of these mutants creeping up here throughout the next little bit. So I like that a lot.
Didn't Man-Bull say he was created in a lab accident or something, and he's like, don't ask, at least during this. Now I don't know if that follows with the comics, but
I don't remember.
He said it was a lab accident or a lab misstep or something. I don't know.
Yeah, so this is apparently this is what happened in the comics. He was hired by a man to round up people to test experimental serum taken from bulls and made out of mutated enzymes. So I guess that's what happened, and it gave him those mutant abilities because it's the enzymes are mutated and they're now in him, so he's a mutant as well. But yeah, that is his. He's so not really a mutant. He's a human mutate, which is what Deadpool is as well. But you know, they're all kind of coming from the same area. But yeah, so we get introduced to them too. I really like their back and forth that they have throughout the episode as well. I thought these two characters really played off of each other well. What was your thoughts to Man-Bull and El Aguila?
I've said many times, know nothing of the characters, right? Especially those two random. I guess you would say those would fall in line with Mr. Invincible of like Z-String.
I think they're more obscure. I would probably call these Z-list at this point.
Well, you already said he was like Z-list character, like he was a Z-list character. Dude, how much more Z-list is it going to be if you're a Great Lakes Avenger?
Well, he's part of an Avengers team. Like these two are actually villains in the comics.
But if you're a Great Lakes Avenger, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, if we were to take this into the baseball realm, right? Okay, so your Avengers and stuff are the show. It's major leagues, right?
Yeah.
Then you have like AAA, AA, single A. Then there's like low A ball. Then they actually have, I don't know if they still do, it used to be like independent leagues.
Yeah, they still do,
like,
yeah.
And like the Cape Cod League, which was like some weird summer thing that was in between like college and like low A ball or something.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I think the independent leagues might even be these guys are like stickball league. This is like going out in the backyard.
Really? I think Great Lakes Avengers would probably be more like a single A. And I think Man-Bull and Aguila are definitely like, and Porcupine, which we'll get to, are definitely like independent league T-ball type stuff.
Yeah, we're getting we're getting the Sandlot type stuff of like a pickup baseball game, right? But I thought the characters were cool, and I thought their interactions with each other were cool. I loved seeing Porcupine. Like I don't know I still don't know what the deal with him was, other than his costume smelled like ass, right? Like, and the vampire. Like I don't know who these people were or where they came from, but I was just like, this is just a weird kooky bunch. I'll buy it. Carry on, Marvel. Carry on.
Yeah, and I said this when we talked about Mr. Immortal, but there's no reason to sit on these characters because you're never going to have a show based around them. So if you can just fit them in somewhere in the MCU, doing fun stuff with it like this is the perfect way to do it. And
okay. How, if you're Jessica Gao, She's the writer, correct? Or she?
Yeah, head writer. Yeah.
Okay.
Showrunner. Yeah.
If you're Jessica Gao and one of the other writers, and you have your writer's room, and you're coming up with stories, how do you... Is there like a research dude whose job might be to just read comics and pick out these weird, or go through Marvel's history and look at weird random people like Mr. Invincible and Porcupine Man and Manbull and El Matador there and Fifth Unknown Vampire that should have been with Blade, but he's not. He's a lesser known black vampire that nobody's ever seen before. Like, to pull these people out, like, okay, these are actual characters. Cool. That's great. The fact that either A, someone in that writer's room is like, oh, this would be a great place for these random characters. Okay. I have nothing against geek and nerd culture. I like it. Hell, I'm doing a Marvel fan podcast, right? So I can't really say much. But if you already knew of these characters and you're bringing them up in the writer room, you might be a little too much in there. That kind of makes me think of, you ever see Robot Chicken?
No. I've seen bits. I haven't seen like.
You ever see the geeky guy with glasses?
No.
Just look up, like, at some point, Google like Robot Chicken Geek, and you'll get what I'm saying. Like, that's what I get from that. Or the fact that there's like some intern or some research assistant that has to go through and look at like these lists of random people to be like, oh, these would be perfect for a weird therapy session with She-Hulk. Like,
it's probably the latter. So I have this book that's called the like Marvel Encyclopedia of Characters, and it has like every character. So if you can just browse through that and be like, oh, here's a, like, they're probably shifting through and see Porcupine. Oh, we're putting him in. And I saw somebody on Twitter say that they ruined Porcupine in this, and I was like, stop acting like you cared about Porcupine. All right. His Wikipedia page is super short. This isn't somebody that is beloved. All right. So let's not act like this is the let's not act like they ruined like a big character. And also, he fits pretty much what the comics look like as well here, which is he's got a suit of battle armor. There's been 3 Porcupines in Marvel Comics history. You know, like, different people have taken up the mantle of Porcupine.
By choice, or like...
By
choice. Bequeath, like the Santa Claus, where you killed the dude, now you got to take his place. How do you choose to be like?
Apparently by choice. They designed a suit of battle armor, which is composed of steel and advanced plastics that enhance his strength and durability, and it's equipped with a wide variety of offensive and defensive weapons built in. And one of them has like oxygen mask, which is like kind of the one that we're seeing in the show here. And in that oxygen mask, it's it lasts for up to like 6 hours or something of oxygen. So he probably has to refill that every so often.
Now he's got to carry an oxygen tank around? Jesus Christ, man.
Something like that. I don't know. But it was fun to see him. I'm not really familiar with him at all. But it was fun to see some of these more obscure characters and get people to Google them, you know? Saracen is a vampire. In the comics, he was first appeared in Blade #1 in 1999. He's a member of an ancient group of vampires who are considered some of the oldest known bloodsuckers in existence, and he hid underneath the Vatican for many years before he was awoken. So he might be telling the truth here, saying he is a vampire. I guess we'll.
I don't doubt that, but I don't doubt he is. Well, is he a daywalker like Blade? How's he out there in the daylight? How is this?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
Because it wasn't nighttime when they were. Now, in all fairness, I cannot recall if I saw him outside the building. At all. Like I did not think about that till now, so I'm not sure if he was. But at the same time, it was daytime. Jen was not up there at night, so the sun was out. So he was still up and moving around. Like, is he a daywalker like Blade? What's going on here?
It's a good question. I don't know. So maybe he's not an actual vampire in the MCU. Maybe he just thinks he is. It's a good question. Wrecker. We saw him from the Wrecking Crew. You know what? I actually needed the remember. I needed the previously on here. I did not pick him out of the lineup.
That might have been my favorite portion of the whole thing, where Jen breaks the fourth wall and is like, "Whoa, stop! Did we get? She's like, did we get a previously on? Do you remember him? Well, we're getting a previously on.
Was he actually in the regular previously on or not? I have to check that now. Like the one that starts the episode, because I can't for the life of me remember if he was even in that. But yeah, so this was it was a good gag. That's where the fourth the fourth wall breaks. It's helpful to be able to just say, hey, you might not remember this person. Here they are, because some of these shows, like this would probably work out perfectly for streaming, right? If you were just going to binge it and not watch it week to week, or if you're watching those
if you're
episodes,
waiting for it to all come out at once, and then you'll sit down on the couch and binge through it in a weekend.
Yeah,
like with her cousin.
If you're waiting
from earlier.
if you're watching these episodes 3 or 4 times a week before the next one, then yeah, you probably remember this guy. And I remember the Wrecking Crew. I just couldn't remember that this was that actor, And I just checked, and he's not in the original previously on. So when Jen says, I don't know if they showed him.
Did they even show the Wrecking Crew in the previously on or no?
Mm-mm. They only showed the Josh stuff and like some more stuff from the wedding. They didn't show a lot of the and the Blonksy stuff.
Yeah, so I know before they showed a previously on with the Wrecking Crew.
Yeah, probably a few weeks ago.
Earlier episode, but yeah, I didn't know who he was. I had no clue. Some random dude walks in and it's like, and then she just goes nuts on him.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, who is this supposed to be? I was like really having problems. That's a problem for me because I usually don't have that issue. But it had been so long, in all fairness. This, like I said, this was kind of the same situation as... it was a night scene, too.
But it's also the same situation just like with her cousin, where her cousin was in the first episode, right? And then 3 or 4 episodes later, here he is walking into her apartment like we're supposed to know who he is, with a bunch of She-Hulk stuff from Titania that he wants her to sign. But it's one of those, like, I don't remember this dude. The episodes were too... I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
Right.
The episodes were just kind of spaced far apart, so I don't know who he is. So without... At least for this one, they gave an explanation of like, this is who that person is.
So that she learns this, whole thing about accepting herself as Jen and not just She-Hulk, and also making peace with She-Hulk, because again, this is where she kind of got burned, that the guy who seemed interested in just Jen and she was starting to feel comfortable in her skin just up and ghosted her, to where now she was feeling a little self-conscious about Jen again. So trying to get over that, and
self-esteem's a killer, man. You know what I thought was going to happen at one point? So, remember... Okay, throughout the episode, she's been checking her phone constantly, right? And remember, on the way up to Blonsky's thing, she kept like refreshing and checking her phone to see if a message came through. I thought it was going to be a Doctor Strange thing. I thought an accident was going to happen.
Oh yeah.
Because they show this weird, windy road, and in certain places in California out here, like when you start going up into Hollywood Hills, and some places out by Santa Monica, and some places where people go inland for these retreats or along the coast, you'll see roads like that, and they have these weird cliffs, and things. And so I thought something was gonna happen. Luckily it did. But yeah, man, like your self-esteem's just kind of weird sometimes, man. It doesn't take for some people, it doesn't take much to kind of crush it at any point. and it's hard to kind of get over and accept yourself and things like that. So, and that's just me. I can't imagine. I can't even speak or imagine as a woman trying to deal with your self-esteem, and then trying to deal with your self-esteem as a woman when you're Jen and She-Hulk. Like, that's just a layer that I have no context on or clues about.
Yeah, so she ends up feeling a little bit more in tune with herself. She's gonna go home. That's when it then flashes back to the 3 days earlier, showing Josh cloning her phone, and that he also stole a sample of her blood on behalf of a character they're calling the Hulk King the last 2 weeks. And we'll find out, I guess, who that is over the course of the next 2 episodes here. The rumor is next episode is Daredevil's appearance. So for all the people that were clamoring for that and had to go 2 weeks without it, you're about to see it. And then I'm assuming 9 is going to be like kind of the final showdown with Titania and maybe whoever the Hulk King is or something along that way. Any other thoughts on this episode, Casey? Anything to touch on?
I kind of miss Nikki, but I like the fact that she was in there. But this was more about Jen accepting herself and dealing with those. I don't want to say issues, but dealing with herself. Tim Roth as Blonksy is just magic, man. Like this version of Blonksy, like the other version of Blonksy, the other weird version, who is the mercenary, is one thing, but this kind of chill new age Blonksy. I wish we could have seen his soulmates. That would have been awesome. But the fact that he does have this retreat and he's got this land and he's got a favorite chicken and he's helping these weird random people go through some things is kooky and awesome. I don't know why they would want her blood, but remember, I think it was last week or the week before where we talked about it and I said maybe they were going to try and get her blood as Jen instead of as She-Hulk.
Yeah.
So maybe it was a situation where her skin is obviously more penetrable as Jen.
And while she's sleeping. Which helps, I guess, so she can't Hulk out at you before you stab it, right? Well, and then in more ways than one, stabbing it with what they were doing. But when you're talking about this is what I was kind of talking about, like right at the end of the court case in episode 5, the guy on the stand says, I just wasn't into Jen, and you could see how upset she was that who's ever in charge, Hulk King, knows, okay, well, we tried going through dating She-Hulk. Let's try to get it with just Jen because we see that that's the way to her heart, which is going to allow us to maybe get that blood while also she's not hulked out. And it stings. And she hasn't realized it yet. I wonder when she'll figure out Josh is the one that betrayed her. But then what you also have is they want the blood.
She doesn't even know her blood's been taken yet, though. So
yeah. But they want the blood because it's something that's mentioned in the first episode, right? When Hulk is when Bruce is saying our blood can handle this type of transformation, and he was able to synthesize something to fix his arm, and he says he had to destroy it because it in the wrong hands could lead to some issues. I think that's what we're going to see. I think we're going to see at some point hulking.
Someone trying to make himself or someone else another Hulk.
Yes.
With Jen's blood.
And I think Hulk King is who wants to do that because he wants to be king of the Hulks. One character that's famous for that is the leader in the comics, but it also could just be somebody else that's like, I'm going to be the best Hulk I can be, and I'm going to rule them all with this blood.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question because I don't remember. I know nothing of comics, so I need to know this. So we have Smart Hulk, Professor Hulk, and the Incredible Hulk. That's one person, right? That's Bruce Banner. Cool. We got She-Hulk, who I love. Awesome. Great. I guess at one point, or there was either a full series or a comic of a Red Hulk.
Yes.
Who and what is this Red Hulk? What like?
So
what
Red
is the
Hulk
story on
is Thunderbolt Ross from the comics. Yeah, the actor's dead, but there's rumors they're trying to get Harrison Ford as a recast, which would be
I'll buy that.
interesting. But yes, there was rumors Red Hulk was going to somehow appear in the show, and then I'm assuming with the death they had to scrap that. I'm not sure if that's a true rumor or not, but there you go. So that's who that is. There's also Gray Hulk, which is Joe Fixit, which is
How did these other Hulks come to be? Like,
so let me see here. Gray Hulk was, or Joe Fixit, as he's known, is still another part of the Bruce Banner Hulk. He's like another personality. Then you have
did he split off from? Was there like some sort of a split?
Yeah, there was some sort of split off, like from him being more like the Savage Hulk, I think, than the like Professor Hulk. But he's able to do other stuff. Then there's Maestro, which is another Bruce Banner Hulk. This was combining the intelligence with Hulk's more malevolent aspects. He looks like he's got like a beard and like gray hair. He looks pretty cool. But there's so many Hulks. Pretty much what they had to do was like anytime they wanted to, they're like, what's a new color that we can do here? I forget how Thunderbolt Ross got it. He did some sort of test, I think.
He was old. Like, why was he trying to test stuff on himself? He wasn't a young man. And even to make general, even best case scenario for a general, you got to be at least, I mean, unless there's like the Vietnam War going on, you got to be at least good 20, 25 years in. So 21, you got to be at least in your mid 40s. Like,
yeah, he was, I mean, in the comics, he's pretty old too. He's got the gray hair as well. I'm just trying to read through real quick. It doesn't really tell me anything too much about how he. Now, in the comics, it's like a twist. Like for a while, it was like Red Hulk was a thing, and then it was like when they found out who it was like, oh, it's Thunderbolt Ross. Like it was like a twist in the original comics. I'm assuming they could just make Red Hulk a different character if they don't want to recast as well. They could just have somebody else become Red Hulk. But so yeah, they're really rounding out the Hulk universe now, especially if Hulk King is the leader. If he's not, I'm still very suspicious of the guy who called her a specimen. That's just not something you usually say. We've seen him a couple times. I'm really suspicious of that guy. But yeah, I'm really excited for the next two episodes. I think the series has just been very good each week. At this point, for me, the weakest episode is the first one, and I think it's just because it was so much origin filled, and I really wanted to just get to the part that we're at here with her doing the law stuff, the comedy format, and it's for me since the first episode, it's just been better and better. Almost episode 4 is still a huge standout, though.
For me, the weakest one was the one I said a couple weeks ago, where it's just
I think it was 5.
Right. Yeah, that one still stands. But I enjoyed the premiere episode just because I had no knowledge of who she was and how she got that, and I thought it was a good way of giving us that to show us, okay, this is who Jennifer Walters is, and to tie it into the MCU, like to show that she has a relationship with Bruce Banner. And to tie directly into the MCU where it's, you had whatever the alien species is there that actually came to visit Hulk, so it's still tied into that world directly, and then she kind of just goes off on her own tangent indirectly. Yeah, I've enjoyed the show so far. I like the comedy aspects of it. I'd like to see some more court cases just for me. Not necessarily just for me, but like I'd like to see her doing more law stuff. Some more.
Yeah, she hasn't done a lot. Her friends Nikki and Pug have done more legal stuff than she has.
Well, they've only done like one case each, so it hasn't been a ton. But I mean, and maybe if they go and do further seasons of She-Hulk, they'll do more court stuff, more attorney stuff, which I think would be great. If they do, I would love to see more Nikki and Pug and the rest of the characters. I gotta get an update on Madeline. Like, I gotta see Madeline one more time before the show ends. Or Madison, I'm sorry. Like, I gotta see Madison one more time before the show ends.
I'm thinking the finale is going to have a lot of these characters kind of back for little parts, is what I would suspect. I hope, anyway.
Look, if we don't see Wong again, I can understand because he's really tied in with all the bigger stuff in the MCU, and I get it. He's the Sorcerer Supreme. He's kind of busy, so unless he's just vibing and watching random shows with Madison, like we might not see him again. I get that. I'll be honest. I'm surprised we saw Blonksy again. I didn't think we were going to see him anymore during the season.
I think from trailers we'll see him again too.
I could see that. I could see maybe Bruce making one more appearance, possibly in the finale to set up whatever Bruce Banner is going to go through moving forward. You've talked about the possibility of his son, and whatever happens with him, or just him going back to that other planet, whatever's going to go on. Like, I get it. We're not going to see Spider-Man or anything in this, or any of the major characters. I get that, but I still would love to see, like, sometimes I just need Madison. Like, even if they gave us some sort of spin-off thing with Madison, like, that character was just so awesome to just pop off that once and that was it. Like, you can't leave us hanging, Disney. That's too cruel.
I think she'll be back either finale or if some other show down the road. People really loved her. I don't think Marvel's going to be like, let's not bring her back. And so I do think at some point.
The only thing that might help, or the only thing that might hurt that, is there's always a possibility she could get cast in another show. Yeah. Depending on what her contract with Marvel is. Maybe her contract was just for an episode or two of She-Hulk or something like that. Like, okay. But if she got like a starring, especially now, well, maybe not now because all the pilots and everything have already been filmed, but for this season at least, but there's always a possibility because she struck such a big chord with fans, she might be high up on lists for pilots that are being written now that, once pilot season kicks in, which is what, like March, April, something like that.
Early.
These pilots that are being written and developed now, there's a possibility people might have their eye on her for that. So that could maybe put a crimp in it where we might not see Madison again. Or if we do, it can only be sparingly because she's got a role on a Peacock show of, whatever, or a Paramount Plus thing or something.
Yeah, that's true. I guess the good thing is, like, this is one of the only good things about having shows with short episode counts is that usually it doesn't take them as long as a film. Like, I know Charlie Cox, who plays Daredevil, is going to be doing 18 episodes of Daredevil next year that he's filming.
That's back close to the normal full season of like 22, 23, 24.
But he's like currently filming a show for Netflix or something. So like you film like 6 or 8 episodes for Netflix now, and then you can go do a Peacock show, and then you can like Glenn Howerton of It's Always Sunny was doing Sunny and AP Bio, which were both like 10 episodes each, pretty much. Like he was doing that for a bit. Like that's the only good side of it. Like I kind of miss the days of like network TVs having, like I'm rewatching Community now with the news of the movie, and just having like 22 episodes for the first few seasons where you're able to just like stay with the characters that long is so much fun. But now even like sitcoms for Netflix are like, here's 6 episodes, deal with it. You're like, okay. For actor availability, it's just really good though, because they get to do so much stuff. But you're right, she's probably going to get cast in something.
I can't imagine as much of a fan favorite as she was from that one episode, that she would not be, that some studio or some would not try and capitalize off that in some way, shape, or form. That's one of those, you definitely got to strike while iron's hot. So, and I mean, I hope for her. I mean, she did that role fantastically, and I wish her all the success in the world. She's living her dream out there, and being an actress or actor out here in LA is not easy.
Hey, you live for that big break.
Yeah, you hear a lot of stories, and a lot of bigger actors and actresses and writers talked about, waiting tables and trying to shuffle their schedule around while they were trying to go to auditions and various things, and it's, living with like 3 or 4 people because they're all waiters and waitresses and busboys trying to make it, and it's expensive as hell out here. So, hey, dude, whatever you can grab onto, do. But I just, I definitely could see her being cast in something else this upcoming season.
So, before we head out, just something to say. I talked about this a little bit on the Deadpool episode, so I'm just going to bring it up here too. So we're about to go through a little bit of a drought here with stuff. She-Hulk ends. We get Werewolf by Night this week as well, which is a Halloween special. That comes out this week. And then we have kind of a gap until Black Panther. And then after Black Panther, we have nothing till the holiday special for Guardians. And then I don't think anything till Ant-Man and What If Season 2. So my goal here is starting after Black Panther, I'm looking to do a rewatch of Daredevil, the old Netflix show that's now on Disney Plus, doing episode recaps. Going to have some guests on. But the goal is to watch Daredevil seasons 1 through 3, the Defenders series from Netflix, and then looking at some of the characters as they make their way into the MCU. Kingpin was in Hawkeye. We're having Daredevil show up in this show. Daredevil showed up in No Way Home. So then what we do after we're done watching the Netflix stuff, we'll watch some of the MCU content with those characters in it and just see how it matches the portrayals from other stuff and see if these things can still be considered canon to the MCU. So that's the goal of my rewatch. I'm going to have episodes on this feed for that, but I also set up a separate feed for people that just search Daredevil because it'll make them find the show easier on iTunes. But if you're already subscribed to this feed, you'll get it without having to change where you're listening. So that'll probably be like the week after Black Panther, have like a few episodes in those weeks, and then maybe a holiday break. And then, anytime that there's not a big MCU thing going on, we'll be also going through the Daredevil stuff. So, yeah.
You know what I need to watch that I never finished, but I was really into was Jessica Jones.
Yes, so here's my relationship with the Netflix stuff. I was really into it. Watched the first 2 Daredevils, watched the Defenders, watched the first 2 Jessica Jones or whatever. Watched even Iron Fist season 1 and Luke Cage season 1. Then they started canceling all of these, and I was like, well, if they're going to cancel them, I'm not going to, I heard that Daredevil season 3 ends on a cliffhanger, And I was like, I'm not going to watch that then. I'm not going to get the satisfaction of the ending, and it's no longer going to be relevant. They're canceling all this stuff. They're probably just going to recast for the MCU. And then they didn't recast, and it's like this question of, can these things coexist? And I'm like, oh, well, maybe I should go back and, finish watching season 3 of Daredevil now, because maybe, even in my head canon, I can say, this fits, or maybe I can just think it's canon. I don't care. But
well, two things. I think with something like a Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, a Daredevil, it possibly can, because they're in such, I hate to say small for New York, but they're in like Hell's Kitchen, like they're in such these small areas,
Harlem and Hell's Kitchen,
yeah, that they're not, and I only watched a couple episodes of Jessica Jones. I never finished it, but I don't know if they ever referenced any of the bigger goings on in the MCU in any of those shows, or if they did, maybe it wasn't passing, like it wasn't, obviously a lot of that probably takes place in the aftermath of the attack on New York.
Yes.
So,
yep.
I mean, that's not
pretty
hard
much
to do.
It's pretty much your only references. You get stuff that what they call that the incident, and they'll mention like having a magic hammer like Thor, or they'll mention the green guy for Hulk, but they don't really.
Yeah, because they weren't connected, so they probably did. They don't want to say Thor or Hulk or anything, because then they probably get sued. But so I get that. I think it probably could stand in the universe, but on kind of like She-Hulk, where it's in the universe, but it's its own little contained area.
Yeah.
Right? And once again, this is without me having seen it, but it can, just because, like I said, it's these couple of little boroughs inside of a borough inside New York City, right? They're not really interacting with anything major. Two, have they said anything? So they're bringing back Daredevil. Have they said anything about bringing back the character or the same people who played the characters of Luke Cage and or Jessica Jones?
They haven't yet. Now, there was a rumor, so if people don't want to hear this, tune out. There's a rumor that in Echo, the show that's coming up, she's a Daredevil character as well. Daredevil and Kingpin are going to be in her show. There was a rumor saying that Daredevil's quest in her show was trying to track down Jessica Jones, and then had to get changed to a different character because Kristen Ritter is currently filming something else. Now, so it seems like they do want to bring her back if that rumor is to be believed, and they might just have to wait for her availability. The Finn Jones for Iron Fist and Mike Coulter for Luke Cage. I mean, they had to film promos when their show was coming on Disney Plus for all those cast members saying, our show's on Disney Plus now. So, like, it seems like there's maybe a chance that they will. I think here's my thought, before, not to spoil whatever I'm going to do on Daredevil rewatch, but my thought process is they're going to keep it very loose with the references, where it could still be canon, and let people think it is, until they outright cast someone differently, or until they do something that is totally canon breaking with those. I think that's the way it's going to be. And that's kind of what I'm sure that they're trying to do, because they know how popular some of those shows were. So you don't want to really like piss off the people by saying what you watched for like 5 years is invalidated. But like, that's how I think they're going to do it, is like very like, it could have happened, but they're not going to pick up right where it left off, because we had the snap, we had all those things that would have been a big time gap. So it's going to be kind of like a new thing where if you didn't watch those, you can pick it up. But I think there'll be references to stuff that if you watch those, you'd be like, oh, this fits. And I think that's the way that they're going to go about it. Or else I think they would have just recast everyone, honestly.
I love the fact that I think Kristen Ritter did awesome in the episodes I saw. I think I was in school at the time still. So I was in school and working and trying, and I just never got around to finishing. who was the guy from Doctor Who played the villain? He was
David Tennant.
David Tennant was fantastic in
He
that role
was.
too.
Yeah, he was great.
And I definitely need to finish that just because I thought it was a great show. I think I saw Luke Cage was in an episode or two of Jessica Jones before he did his own thing. So that's one of those I might at some point jump in and go through. But
and if people don't know, The Defenders, it was like an 8-episode run where it had Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and Daredevil team up because that's a comic team, The Defenders, and they're like street level, and they did like almost like an Avengers crossover with them. So
I guess they would be like the New York City Avengers.
Yeah, yeah, if you want to call it that, yeah. They're like they really kind of are like they've had different team lineups and stuff, but the most famous one is that lineup, and they're like they do street level crime, kind of like Spider-Man and Daredevil. But yeah, so if you're interested in those, you can. I already got the feed up on most of the podcast things. I put a little trailer of me just kind of explaining what we would be covering. So if you're interested in that, you can look for it there. I got Twitter accounts set up. But if you're interested in like hosting, if anybody's interested in like coming on to talk their favorite episode, reach out to me. Maybe we can work something out. But if you want, I've reached out to a few people for guests, so I got some lined up already. You can email us marvelplusrecaps@gmail.com. You can tweet us at TO Infinity Saga, or you can reach us on Facebook.com/Infinity Saga Beyond. I want to thank everyone for listening, and we'll catch you next time for episode 8 recap of She-Hulk.